It was the kind of day that started like any other, but I had no idea it would change my life forever. I walked into that room, nervous but confident, not knowing that my entire reality was about to be flipped upside down. You see, it all started when I was invited to a party. Not just any party, a gathering thrown by one of the wealthiest families in the country. The kind of people whose names you hear in the news, and whose lives seem so far removed from your own. I was just a regular guy with regular problems. The daily grind, the bills, the dreams that felt just a bit out of reach. But somehow I ended up on the guest list. When I walked into the room, I could feel the eyes on me. Some curious, some judgmental. I was used to it. You see, being from a small town, you learn quickly how people look at you when they think you're out of your element. But there was one person in particular who made me feel like an intruder. The billionaire's stepdaughter. She was standing in the corner, laughing with her friends when she caught a glimpse of me. The look she gave was a mix of confusion and amusement. Like I didn't belong. Her eyes scanned me up and down, sizing me up as if I were some kind of puzzle. And then she pointed, right at me. "Who's that guy?" she asked, voice dripping with sarcasm, loud enough for others to hear. There was a small chuckle from her friends, and I felt the heat of embarrassment creeping up my neck. I could feel the weight of her judgment like an anchor around my chest. They laughed. I didn't belong here, and they were making sure I knew it. But as the laughter echoed in the room, something happened. Something I didn't expect. The billionaire, her stepfather, walked into the room. He was tall, commanding, with a presence that demanded attention. Everyone turned toward him, but he wasn't looking at anyone else. His eyes were on me. I thought maybe he was just another rich guy with a fake smile, but no. He stepped up, his voice cutting through the chatter like a knife. "This boy is family," he said, and the room went silent. I'll never forget those words. It was like a switch had been flipped. The laughter stopped. The whispers died down. People turned away, confused, unsure of how to react. But the billionaire, he didn't hesitate. He walked over to me, ignoring the stares, and placed a hand on my shoulder like we'd known each other forever. "I've been watching you," he said, his voice low but not cold. "You've got something special, something these people will never understand. But that's okay. You'll show them." And just like that, everything changed. In that moment, I realized that it wasn't about fitting in or impressing anyone. It was about having the courage to stand out, even when you're the odd one out. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. The billionaire saw something in me that no one else did, not the stepdaughter, not her friends, and not anyone in that room. He saw potential. He saw the future, and he was willing to take a chance on me. It wasn't just about wealth. It wasn't just about the status that came with being a part of that world. It was about something deeper, something I hadn't figured out yet, but knew I was about to. The billionaire's words echoed in my head as I looked around the room. People were still watching me, but now it didn't matter. I wasn't the outsider anymore. I was part of something bigger, but that wasn't the end of the story. In fact, it was just the beginning. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. The billionaire didn't just talk about me like I was family. He treated me like it. He took me under his wing, showing me the ropes of a world I'd never imagined. A world of influence, power, and opportunity. At first, I was overwhelmed. The people, the expectations, the pressure, it all felt like too much. I questioned myself, wondering if I was really cut out for this. But then, I remembered those words. "This boy is family." It was a simple statement, but it carried so much weight. It reminded me that I didn't have to prove myself to anyone. The billionaire believed in me. He trusted me. And that belief, it sparked something in me, a fire that I didn't even know existed. I started to see the world differently. I began to understand that success wasn't just about what you had or where you came from. It was about what you were willing to do, what you were willing to sacrifice, and who you were willing to become. In those first few months, I learned more than I had in my entire life. The billionaire introduced me to people who had the power to change everything. Movers and shakers, entrepreneurs and visionaries. He taught me lessons that you can't learn in a classroom. He showed me how to think bigger, act bolder, and never apologize for wanting more. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were challenges. There were moments when I doubted myself. when I thought I was in over my head. But with every setback, I learned. With every failure, I grew stronger. And with every victory, I realized I was becoming a different person. Someone I didn't even recognize, but someone I knew was capable of anything. I didn't know it at the time, but the billionaire had set me on a path to something incredible. And it wasn't just about money. It wasn't about the fancy parties, the expensive cars, or the luxury. It was about something deeper, something more meaningful. It was about finding my place in a world that seemed so out of reach. And it was about understanding that the only limits that exist are the ones you place on yourself. Every day that passed, I found myself more deeply immersed in this new world. With every lesson, every strategic conversation, and every opportunity to prove my worth, something within me changed. I was growing in ways I couldn't explain to anyone, not even to myself, but I felt something big was being formed. The first big opportunity came a few weeks later when the billionaire invited me to a meeting with some of the most influential investors in the industry. They were launching a new project that promised to revolutionize an entire sector, and they needed someone with a fresh perspective, someone who wasn't stuck in traditional methods, someone willing to challenge the status quo. I looked around the room, feeling immense pressure. These people were powerful, and their words could decide the future of many companies. And there I was, just a regular guy, sitting among them as if I were one of them. I didn't know what to say or how to behave. The nervousness almost paralyzed me. But then, I thought about those words from the billionaire still echoing in my mind. This boy is family. He believed in me. And if he believed, then I had to believe too. So I took a deep breath and began speaking. I didn't know what I was going to say, but something inside me knew that this was my moment to take a risk. I talked about innovation, about how the industry needed a shift in mindset, about how the old ways of doing things no longer worked. I spoke with passion, with conviction, without fear of making mistakes, because I knew this was my chance. Then something even more surprising happened. One of the investors, a man who seemed almost untouchable, raised his hand in the middle of my speech. I froze. What did he want? He interrupted me, but instead of criticizing me, he said, "This boy is right. He's seeing what we, the experienced ones, can no longer see. The market is changing, and he sees it with a fresh perspective, a perspective we've lost." I believe in him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The most conservative man in the room was supporting me, and that made everyone else look at me with more respect. But more importantly, I saw myself changing. I left behind the insecurity and began embracing my new reality. I wasn't that regular guy anymore. I was becoming someone different, someone capable of making an impact on the world. But that wasn't the end of the story. In fact, it was just the beginning. The following months were a whirlwind. With the billionaire's guidance, I started to make decisions that, at first, seemed impossible. With the support of the billionaire and other mentors he introduced me to, I led a series of innovative initiatives that took the companies we were involved with to new heights. Projects once considered risky became the foundation of our growth. And more, I found myself in situations where my voice and decisions were heard with respect, something I never imagined a few months ago. The transformation I went through wasn't just professional, it was personal. I learned to value my own abilities, to trust my instincts, and to understand that true value doesn't lie in where you start, but in what you do with the opportunities that come your way. I'm no longer that boy lost in the middle of a luxurious party, the target of sarcastic laughter and judgmental stares from a rich girl. I'm someone who has earned his place, who has something important to offer, and who knows that the future is in his hands. And when I look back, I realize that all I needed to get here was someone believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. The billionaire, in a way, showed me that true wealth isn't in money. It's in the connections, the mindset, and the willingness to never give up. He gave me the tools to change my destiny, and that's exactly what I did. I could say that everything was easy, that it was just a matter of being in the right place at the right time, but the truth is far different. It was about perseverance, about learning from mistakes, and about continuing to push forward even when it seemed like everything was against me. And the most important thing of all, it was about realizing that, in the end, a person's true worth isn't in their origin, but in their ability to turn the impossible into possible. And now I understand. Being part of this story isn't about wealth, status, or fame. It's about the journey, about the ability to evolve and learn. And more than ever, I know that the next chapter will be even more incredible. Because deep down, this isn't just my story. It's the story of everyone who dared to dream and take risks. As time went on, I found myself deeply entrenched in this world, a world I had only ever heard of in passing, where influence and power moved like tides, shaping everything they touched. The billionaire didn't just show me the ropes, he handed me the entire map to navigate the terrain. And soon I realized that what I had once perceived as a world for the ultra-elite, the untouchables, was no different than any other realm, full of challenges, opportunities, and risks. The only thing that set it apart was the stakes. With each passing week, I was exposed to more. I was introduced to new strategies, new people, and new ways of thinking that altered my perspective forever. I no longer saw the world as a series of small, insignificant moments. I began to see the intricate patterns that tied everything together, the power in connections, the importance of timing, the value of perception. I had always been an observer, a spectator, but now I was in the game. And this game wasn't for the faint of heart. One evening, after a particularly intense day of meetings, the billionaire took me to one of his private events. This wasn't some fancy gala or a black-tie charity dinner. No, this was a small, intimate gathering where the real decision-makers came to discuss the things that mattered, the unspoken rules of power, the whispered alliances that shaped industries, and the future that only a few could see. It was at that gathering that I met some of the most influential minds I had ever come across. People who didn't just follow trends but created them. These were the innovators, the risk-takers, the people who had their fingers on the pulse of what was to come. I listened to their conversations in awe, absorbing everything like a sponge. But there was one conversation, one piece of advice that stood out above the rest. A man, who was a titan in the tech industry, pulled me aside. His name was Mark, and he had built one of the most successful startups in Silicon Valley before selling it for billions. He looked at me with a sharpness that made me feel like I was being evaluated, but in a way that felt constructive, not judgmental. "You know," he said, "the problem with most people in your position is that they don't realize how important their network is. They think it's about what they know, but it's about who they know. And it's not about having connections, it's about having the right connections. Build a network that challenges you. Surround yourself with people who push you to think bigger, to act faster, and to take risks you never thought possible." Those words hit me like a freight train. Up until that point, I had thought that success was about grinding harder than everyone else, about proving my worth with results. But Mark's advice opened my eyes to the reality that it wasn't just about doing more. It was about aligning with the right people. That night, as I stood there, surrounded by these powerhouse individuals, I made a silent vow to myself. I was going to build the kind of network that would change everything. I was going to be part of something greater than I could even imagine. The months that followed were a blur of intense work, strategic moves, and calculated risks. I was constantly pushed to think beyond the conventional, to challenge the norms that had governed my life until then. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, failures, and moments where I questioned whether I was cut out for this new world. But with every failure, I learned. With every challenge, I grew stronger. One night, after a particularly tough negotiation where I had to stand my ground against some of the most formidable people in the industry, the billionaire pulled me aside. His eyes, always so steady, locked with mine. "You're starting to get it," he said, his voice calm but filled with an intensity that made me pay attention. "The real power doesn't lie in the deals you close or the money you make. It's in your ability to shape the world around you. You're no longer just reacting. You're becoming someone who influences the course of events. And that, my boy, is a power most people will never understand." Those words stayed with me. They became my mantra, my guiding principle as I moved forward. I realized that success wasn't just about personal victories. It was about leaving a legacy. It was about making an impact that outlasted me. And so, I started to take even bigger risks, to make decisions that were bolder, more innovative. I knew I had the resources, the knowledge, and the support to turn my ideas into reality. I began to invest in ventures that had the potential to disrupt entire industries. Some worked, some didn't. But each move taught me something invaluable. But it wasn't just about the business. It was about the relationships I was building along the way. I watched as the billionaire navigated the world around him with a level of grace and power that seemed almost effortless. He never rushed, never panicked. He was a master of timing, of knowing when to step in and when to let things play out. It was a lesson in patience and strategic foresight, one that I took to heart. As the months turned into years, I started to see the fruits of my labor. The projects I had invested in began to gain traction. The network I had built turned into a powerhouse of connections, each one more valuable than the last. And the man who had once been my mentor, the billionaire who had taken a chance on me, now stood beside me as an equal. We were no longer just mentor and mentee. We were partners in a journey that was bigger than either of us. Looking back, I realize how much I've changed. I've become a different person, someone who understands the true nature of success. It's not just about money or power. It's about having the courage to make bold moves, the wisdom to learn from failure, and the vision to see opportunities where others only see obstacles. But more than anything, it's about understanding that we are all capable of far more than we think. I was once the outsider, the one who didn't belong. I was the kid at the party being laughed at, dismissed, and ignored. But through perseverance, strategic thinking, and the belief of someone who saw potential in me when I couldn't see it in myself, I became part of something much larger than I ever imagined. The journey isn't over yet. In fact, it's just beginning. I now know that the road to true success is never straight, and it's rarely easy. But it's a journey that's worth every step, every challenge, and every risk. And one thing is certain, I will never stop moving forward, because I now understand that the only limits we face are the ones we place on ourselves. And as I stand here today, I know one thing for sure. This boy is family. And family doesn't stop until they reach the top. As time passed, I could feel the weight of my new life settling in. At first, it was all about the hustle, the endless meetings, the high-stakes decisions, the rapid growth of my ventures. But now, I began to realize something deeper. Success wasn't just about achieving goals. It was about living with purpose and making sure that the people you surround yourself with were aligned with that vision. I began looking at the people around me differently. It wasn't just about business partners or investors anymore. It was about true collaboration, about finding those who could challenge my ideas and make me better. I wanted people who weren't afraid to tell me when I was wrong and who would push me to think even bigger. In the world I was now part of, it was easy to get swept up in the glamour of wealth and fame. But I knew that real value was created by building the right team, the right family. That's when I realized something even more crucial. My story wasn't just my own anymore. It was the story of all the people who had believed in me when I had nothing. It was about the mentors who had given me a shot, the investors who had taken risks on my ideas, and even the people who had doubted me, because their doubts had fueled my fire. I started to pay it forward. I reached out to young entrepreneurs who were just starting out, offering advice and guidance where I could. I began mentoring the next generation the way I had been mentored. I realized that the true power of success wasn't just in what you accomplished for yourself, but in what you could help others accomplish. One of the first people I mentored was a young woman named Emma. She had an incredible idea for a sustainable fashion brand that could disrupt the industry. But like me when I started, she didn't know where to begin. She was overwhelmed by the complexity of building a brand from the ground up. But I saw in her the same spark that the billionaire had seen in me, something different, something special. I worked with her, showed her the ropes, and helped her understand the intricacies of building a brand, from market research to supply chain management. It wasn't easy, but Emma was determined. She faced many setbacks: investors who pulled out at the last minute, suppliers who couldn't deliver on time, and even moments where she doubted herself. But I was there, reminding her of the bigger picture, helping her navigate the rough patches. And slowly but surely, her brand began to gain traction. The first collection sold out faster than expected, and the media started taking notice. It was a humbling experience for me, seeing someone else succeed because of the guidance I was able to offer. It was a reminder that success wasn't just about climbing higher on the ladder. It was about bringing others with you. And in doing so, you create a network of people who are all driven by a shared vision, who all believe in each other's potential. That, I realized, was the true power of this new world I was part of. But even with all this success, I still couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to accomplish. I had reached the heights I had once only dreamed about, but I knew there were new frontiers to explore, new risks to take. So, I set my sights on something even bigger. I wanted to build a legacy. It wasn't just about wealth anymore. It was about changing the world. I wanted to create something that would last beyond my own lifetime, something that could make a real difference. That's when I started working on my largest venture yet, an initiative that would combine innovation and sustainability, addressing some of the world's most pressing issues. It was ambitious, but then again, that's what had always driven me. The billionaire, now more of a partner than a mentor, was there every step of the way. He understood what it meant to build something that wasn't just about profit. He had always had a sense of responsibility, of leaving a mark on the world, and now I shared that same vision. We worked together, leveraging our networks and resources to create something that could change the landscape of the industries we were part of. The road to success, I learned, was never straight. It was filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But those obstacles weren't there to stop us. They were there to test us, to push us to become better versions of ourselves. I had learned that the journey was just as important as the destination, and every step of that journey had shaped me into the person I was today. In the end, success was never about the fancy parties, the high-end cars, or the million-dollar deals. It was about the relationships I had built, the lives I had impacted, and the legacy I was creating. It was about understanding that, while wealth and power were important, the most valuable things in life were the moments of true connection, the opportunities to help others, and the knowledge that I had used my position to make the world a little better. Looking back, I realized that none of this would have been possible if I hadn't taken that first step, if I hadn't walked into that room where they laughed at me. Because that moment, that painful moment of rejection, was what pushed me to prove myself. It was what set me on the path to becoming the person I am today. The billionaire saw something in me when no one else did. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And in turn, I learned to believe in others. I learned that the true measure of success isn't in what you've accomplished for yourself, but in how you've impacted those around you. As I stand here today, at the peak of success, I know one thing for certain: the journey is far from over. There's always more to do, more people to help, and more challenges to conquer. And I'm ready, because I've learned that the true secret to success is simple. Never stop growing, never stop learning, and never stop believing that you can make a difference. And that's exactly what I intend to do. Keep making a difference for as long as I can. But as I reflect on everything I've accomplished, I realize that the true test isn't just about achieving success. It's about sustaining it. The world moves quickly, and what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. The challenges that come with maintaining success are just as real as the ones faced when you're climbing the ladder. In fact, some would argue that the true challenge begins when you're at the top. I started to learn that keeping momentum, finding new opportunities, and staying relevant in a constantly shifting market required constant innovation. It wasn't enough to rest on my laurels. I had to keep evolving, stay ahead of the curve, and continuously challenge myself and the people around me to think bigger, act faster, and do better. That meant making tough decisions I'd never imagined having to make. I had to say goodbye to old partnerships that had run their course, and I had to cut ties with projects that no longer aligned with my vision. Some of those decisions were painful, but they were necessary. It wasn't just about growth anymore. It was about being selective, about choosing the path that would bring long-term success, not short-term satisfaction. Along the way, I also realized that true leadership wasn't about being the smartest person in the room or having all the answers. It was about inspiring those around you to rise up, to believe in themselves and in the vision you had set. As I continued to lead my teams, I made it my mission to empower others, to create an environment where they could thrive, take risks, and innovate without fear of failure. And as much as the world of business had its rewards, I also started to understand the other side of success, the responsibility that came with it. I had seen how wealth and power could change people, and I refused to let it change me. The billionaire had taught me the value of humility, of never forgetting where you came from, and of always remembering the people who helped you get there. One day, I found myself at a charity event, surrounded by other wealthy individuals, entrepreneurs, and celebrities. It was a glitzy affair, filled with beautiful people and beautiful things, but as I stood there observing it all, I realized something. None of this, none of the material success mattered as much as the impact we could make with the resources we had. It was then that I decided to take on a new initiative, a project that would focus on giving back, using the success and influence I had built to make a tangible difference in the world. The money, the prestige, all of it was secondary. What mattered was how I could use everything I'd learned to help others achieve success, to provide opportunities for those who didn't have the resources or connections I once lacked. I launched an initiative that focused on funding innovative solutions to problems in education, healthcare, and sustainability. 3 areas I had become passionate about in recent years. I wanted to use my platform to support causes that aligned with my core values: equality, opportunity, and sustainability. The initiative took off quickly, and soon I was working with some of the brightest minds in the world to tackle global challenges. We were able to fund scholarships for underprivileged students, provide resources to hospitals in underserved areas, and invest in eco-friendly technologies that could help combat climate change. The work we did and continue to do became one of the most rewarding aspects of my life. It felt good to know that I wasn't just contributing to my own success, I was contributing to something that mattered. As I reflect on the journey, from that first party where I was laughed at to the moment I stood in front of the world with a purpose far greater than myself, I've come to realize that true fulfillment doesn't come from what you achieve. It comes from how you use your success to lift others. It's about creating opportunities, inspiring change, and making sure that no one is left behind. Today, when I look around at the people in my life, my team, my family, my mentors, I know that I didn't get here on my own. I didn't get here by following a straight path or by making every right decision. I got here because of the lessons I learned along the way, because of the people who supported me, and because I had the courage to take risks, even when the outcome seemed uncertain. And I know this journey isn't over. It's a never-ending cycle of growth, challenge, and reinvention. As I continue to push forward, I'll never forget where I came from, the struggles I overcame, or the people who believed in me when I had nothing to offer in return. Their belief in me fueled my belief in others, and that, above all, is what keeps me going. In the end, the billionaire's words still echo in my mind. This boy is family. And now I understand the true meaning of family, not just blood relations, but the connections we form with others, the bonds that keep us grounded, and the relationships that remind us that we're never truly alone in this journey. Family isn't about where you start. It's about where you're going. And as I stand here today, I know that the best is yet to come. As I keep pushing forward, I've come to realize that success isn't just a destination. It's a journey that continues to evolve with every decision, every partnership, and every challenge I face. The world around me is constantly changing, and as much as I've achieved, I know that the road to the top is a perpetual climb. But it's not just about personal growth anymore. It's about contributing to something bigger than myself, making a lasting impact that will endure long after I'm gone. And as the years go by, I've started thinking about legacy. What do I want to leave behind? What mark do I want to make on the world? Is it the businesses I've built, the people I've mentored, or is it something deeper, a change in how we approach success, leadership, and responsibility? The more I pondered these questions, the clearer it became. My legacy will not be defined by the number of zeros in my bank account or the lavish lifestyle I could have easily fallen into. It will be defined by the lives I've touched and the opportunities I've created for others. It will be about the countless entrepreneurs, dreamers, and risk-takers who now have a chance because of the doors I helped open for them. I remember a conversation I had with a fellow entrepreneur a few years back. We were discussing the nature of success and what truly makes someone successful. He looked at me with a knowing smile and said, "The greatest success isn't how much you earn or how many people know your name. It's about how many people you lift as you rise." That stuck with me. It's a mindset I've carried with me through every venture I've taken on. The more I rise, the more I need to ensure others rise with me. It's not just about reaching the peak. It's about pulling others up alongside you. Creating a world where everyone, no matter their background or circumstance, has an equal shot at their dreams. I've made it a personal mission to ensure that success doesn't come at the expense of others. That's why my focus is now on sustainable growth, diversity, and inclusion in everything I do. Whether it's within my businesses, the projects I fund, or the people I work with, diversity of thought, experience, and perspective is paramount. Everyone deserves a voice at the table, and as I continue on this journey, I want to ensure that I am doing everything I can to create space for those voices to be heard. I've come to understand that no matter how much you achieve, there is always more to do. The world is full of challenges, and while I've been able to carve out a space for myself, I know that true fulfillment comes from addressing those challenges head on. The problems we face today, from inequality to environmental degradation, are complex. But I believe that with the right mindset and the right people by your side, there's nothing we can't overcome. As I look ahead, the future feels more exciting than ever. I'm constantly seeking new ways to make a difference, whether that's through my ventures, my mentorship, or my philanthropic efforts. Each new challenge brings a fresh opportunity to learn, grow, and innovate. And while I've seen firsthand how the world of business can be cutthroat, I've also seen the incredible power that comes from collaboration, from shared vision, and from the belief that together we can achieve far more than we ever could on our own. But despite all the progress I've made, there's one thing that will never change: the humility I learned from the billionaire. He never saw himself as someone above anyone else. His success wasn't something he wore as a badge of honor, it was a tool he used to empower others. And that lesson has stuck with me more than anything else. There are still moments when I feel like I'm in over my head, still moments when the weight of responsibility feels heavier than I'd like, but I've learned that it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to not have all the answers. What matters is continuing to move forward, continuing to learn, and continuing to help those around me find their own paths to success. As I reflect on my journey, I realize just how far I've come. From that young man who walked into a billionaire's party unsure of his place in the world, to the entrepreneur, mentor, and leader I am today. The journey wasn't easy, but it was worth every moment. I've learned that success isn't a straight line. It's a winding road full of surprises, challenges, and moments of doubt. But if you stay true to your vision, stay humble, and never stop believing in yourself, anything is possible. I can't wait to see where this journey takes me next. Because now, more than ever, I know that the best chapters of this story are still to be written. And when the final page is turned, I want to look back and know that I didn't just build a legacy of wealth or power, but a legacy of people, of change, and of opportunity. This isn't just my story. It's the story of everyone who's ever dared to dream, ever dared to take a chance, and ever dared to change their lives. And as I continue to rise, I'll always remember the lesson that started it all. The true power isn't in what you accumulate, it's in what you give, what you share, and how you lift others as you rise. That's the legacy I want to leave behind, and I'll keep building it, one step at a time. But as I continue down this path, I've come to realize that legacy isn't something you can simply build and walk away from. It's something you have to actively shape, refine, and protect every single day. The world is always evolving, and so must you. The tools and strategies that got me to where I am today may not be enough to carry me through the next phase of my journey. The real challenge now is about staying relevant, constantly innovating, and ensuring that the impact I've made so far continues to grow and expand. That's when I started to think about the next generation. The ones who are just beginning to step into the world, the ones with ideas so fresh and bold that they could disrupt entire industries just like I did. I've always believed that true leaders aren't just the ones who make it to the top. They're the ones who lift up others, who see potential in the next wave of talent, and provide the resources and guidance to help them shine. I began investing more heavily in young startups, particularly those led by individuals who, like me, came from nothing but had the vision and determination to change their world. I remember meeting a young woman, Maya, who was just starting a business focused on making affordable, renewable energy accessible to low-income households. She was an engineer, but she lacked the funding to bring her idea to life. Her passion for the cause was undeniable, and her vision was clear. All she needed was someone to believe in her. I saw a reflection of myself in her. A few years ago, I was in the same position, desperate to find someone who would take a chance on me, someone who would open the door for me to prove what I could do. So, I didn't hesitate. I invested in Maya's company, and with that financial backing, she was able to expand her operations and reach communities that truly needed her solution. Seeing Maya succeed wasn't just a victory for her, it was a reminder of why I do this. It was a reminder that success isn't just about building your own empire. It's about creating a ripple effect, helping others build their dreams, and knowing that, in some small way, you've helped change the trajectory of their lives. And it doesn't stop there. I continued mentoring, investing, and building platforms for people to access the resources they needed to turn their ideas into reality. The more I gave, the more I realized how much there was to be done. There was no shortage of talented, driven individuals out there who simply needed the right guidance and the right support to bring their dreams to fruition. But it wasn't always easy. There were times when things didn't work out. Startups failed, people lost faith, and I watched as some of the people I had mentored struggled to find their way. It was heartbreaking, and there were moments when I doubted myself. Could I have done more? Should I have given more support, more resources, more of my time? But those doubts passed, because I understood that failure was just another step on the road to success. Every failure, every setback, was an opportunity to learn, grow, and refine the strategy. Through it all, I stayed focused on my vision: to create a world where anyone, regardless of their background, could have the tools and the chance to make their dreams a reality. And though the road ahead was still uncertain, one thing remained clear. I was exactly where I was meant to be. I had built something meaningful, something that would endure beyond my lifetime. I've come to appreciate the value of taking a step back every now and then to reflect on the progress that has been made. Sometimes in the hustle of the grind, you forget to stop and acknowledge how far you've come. I still look back at the boy who walked into that billionaire's party with no idea what was about to unfold. I look back at the nights spent wondering if I was good enough, at the failures that almost broke me, and the moments of doubt that threatened to hold me back. But now, as I stand in a place of stability and success, I can finally appreciate the journey, the hard work, the sacrifices, the relationships built, and the lives impacted. I realize that the journey never really ends. There is always more to do, more to learn, and more people to help. As I look toward the future, I see endless possibilities. The world is filled with problems that need solving, and there are countless individuals out there who have the creativity and drive to solve them. My job is to make sure they have the resources, the support, and the opportunities to do so. The billionaire once told me that the world doesn't need more people who just want to get ahead for the sake of it. The world needs people who are willing to lift others up, to make a difference with the influence they have. I've taken that lesson to heart, and I continue to live by it every day. I've seen firsthand the power of giving back, of using the success you've earned to help others. It's a power that goes far beyond any amount of money or status. It's a power that can change lives, change communities, and change the world. And as I continue this journey, I know that I'll always be looking for new ways to give, new ways to support, and new ways to make a real difference. Because at the end of the day, success isn't about how much you achieve, it's about how much you give. It's about the people you inspire, the opportunities you create, and the lives you touch. I may have come from nothing, but I'm not the same person I was when I started. I'm someone who understands the value of hard work, the importance of mentorship, and the true meaning of success. And with every step I take, I will continue to build, to lift, and to lead, not just for myself, but for everyone who dares to dream big and take that first step toward greatness. This journey is far from over. It's just beginning. As I move forward, I've come to realize something essential. The world doesn't need more people just following the same path. It needs pioneers, people who are willing to chart their own course, take risks, and make their own rules. The things that seem impossible today may just be the things that shape tomorrow. And the world is full of opportunities, waiting for those with the courage to see them. I know this journey isn't a solo endeavor. It's not about making it to the top alone. The people you surround yourself with, the ones who push you, challenge you, and support you, are just as important as your own efforts. I've been incredibly fortunate to have had the support of mentors, like the billionaire who first believed in me, but I also learned that it's my job to keep that cycle going, to be the person who offers support to the next generation of leaders, innovators, and dreamers. I began to realize that, in many ways, the most significant achievements of my life were not the deals I closed or the businesses I grew, but the people whose lives I had touched. Every story of success I heard from the people I mentored felt like a personal victory. Every person who came to me with a new idea and left with the tools to turn it into something real felt like a piece of my own journey was being passed on. I had created something bigger than myself. And that's when I truly understood the meaning of family. It wasn't just the blood connections that defined us, but the bonds we form with others. The people you choose to bring into your life, the ones who challenge you and help you grow, that's what makes a true family. I had built my own network of support, a web of people who, in their own ways, had become family to me. People I could trust, people I could rely on, and people who would be there for me when times got tough. But even with all this support, I had to recognize that there would still be battles ahead. The world is full of challenges, and not all of them can be predicted. Some are outside of our control. I knew that the success I had built could be fragile if I didn't stay vigilant. The temptation to rest on my laurels, to enjoy the fruits of my labor without pushing forward, would be ever present. But I understood now that the price of complacency was far too high. So, I made a commitment to myself. I would never stop pushing. Not just for my own success, but for the success of everyone around me. For every person who needed guidance, for every company that needed direction, and for every individual who was still searching for their own breakthrough. My journey wasn't just about me anymore. It was about creating a ripple effect that would go on long after I was gone. I started to think about the larger world. There were so many issues that needed attention, issues I had never even fully understood before I had the privilege of getting to know people from all walks of life. Issues like climate change, education, inequality, and healthcare. These were problems that could not be ignored, problems that required more than just financial resources. They needed creativity, determination, and innovation. I wasn't content with simply using my wealth to address these issues. I knew that I could have a far greater impact by fostering a mindset of social responsibility, by creating networks of individuals and organizations that could work together toward solving the world's most pressing problems. It became clear to me that while businesses could be profitable, they could also be forces for good. So I launched initiatives that focused on sustainability, diversity, and inclusion. These weren't just trendy buzzwords for me. They were the foundation of the world I wanted to help create. I began investing in companies that were focused on sustainable practices and ethical business models. I started initiatives to help provide education and job opportunities for underserved communities. And I partnered with organizations that work to make healthcare more accessible and affordable for everyone, no matter where they lived. Every new venture was another opportunity to create a better world, and every person I worked with was a step towards something greater. I wasn't just looking to make money, I was looking to make change. But as much as I focused on the future, I also realized how important it was to pause and reflect on the past, to remember where I came from, and to acknowledge the people and experiences that had shaped me into the person I was today. The struggles, the failures, the moments of doubt, all of them had contributed to my growth. And without those challenges, I wouldn't have developed the resilience, the drive, or the vision that now defined me. In many ways, my success had come full circle. I had started as the outsider, the one who didn't belong. I had faced ridicule and doubt, but those moments were now the foundation of my success. They were the fuel for my determination. And now, as I looked back, I could see that all of it had been worth it. Every setback, every struggle had led me to where I was. And in the process, I had learned the most valuable lesson of all. Success is not just about what you achieve, it's about who you become along the way. Now, as I continue my journey, I can't help but feel a sense of peace. I know that I'm on the right path. I know that I'm not just building businesses or amassing wealth, I'm building a legacy. And the true measure of my success will not be in the size of my bank account or the number of accolades I collect. It will be in the lives I've changed, the people I've helped, and the impact I've made on the world. The future is uncertain, but I'm ready for whatever comes next. Because I've learned that no matter how high you rise, there will always be new challenges, new opportunities, and new people to help along the way. And as long as I can continue to push forward, to learn and to help others do the same, I'll know that my journey is far from over. This story, my story, is still being written. And with each new chapter, I know I'll continue to grow, to give, and to make a difference. Because in the end, that's what life is all about, leaving a legacy that lasts. And as long as I have breath in my lungs and fire in my soul, that's exactly what I intend to do. As I stand on the precipice of this new chapter, I can't help but feel both humbled and excited. The path I've walked has been paved with risks, sacrifices, and countless lessons. And yet, the journey is far from over. In fact, I believe that the most meaningful chapters of my story are still to be written. Every time I look at the projects I've been involved in, the teams I've built, and the partnerships I've formed, I'm reminded that nothing is ever static. The world doesn't stop evolving, and neither should I. The lessons I've learned have been invaluable, but they're just the beginning. Now, it's time to take everything I've built and elevate it even further. I've realized that the world needs more than just entrepreneurs and innovators. It needs leaders who understand the power of empathy, responsibility, and sustainability. I want to be known for creating a new model of success, one that doesn't solely focus on profit, but also on people and the planet. Every decision I make from here on out will be guided by this principle. The biggest challenge ahead? It's not about conquering new industries or chasing after more zeros in my bank account. It's about leading with authenticity and integrity and inspiring others to do the same. I've had the privilege of learning from some of the most successful people in the world, but I know now that my own success doesn't lie in simply following in their footsteps. It lies in paving my own path. This realization has inspired a new initiative, one that is deeply personal to me. I want to help others who are where I once was, the ones who feel like outsiders, the ones who are overlooked or dismissed, the ones who believe their dreams are too far out of reach. I want to create a platform for these individuals to not only dream, but to act, to give them the tools and the resources to create their own success stories. Because I believe that success should be accessible to anyone with the vision and the drive to make it happen. I'm creating a program, a network of mentors, investors, and professionals who are committed to guiding the next generation of leaders. We'll provide financial backing, yes, but more importantly, we'll provide guidance, expertise, and a network of support that these emerging entrepreneurs need to thrive. This program will be the bridge between the underdog and the opportunity they deserve, helping them scale their businesses and ideas to places they never thought possible. This program is just one part of my broader vision for the future. I want to build a movement, a community of people who understand that success doesn't come from working harder than everyone else. It comes from working smarter and from leveraging the collective power of people who are committed to making a difference. Together, we can change industries, reshape economies, and make a meaningful impact on the world. But beyond business, beyond wealth, there's something else I've come to deeply value: the power of reflection. As much as I push forward, I now take time to pause, to reflect on where I've been, what I've learned, and what's truly important. In a world that's always moving at a rapid pace, it's easy to get caught up in the next deal, the next venture, the next goal. But sometimes the most important thing we can do is step back and appreciate the journey we've already walked. I look at the people around me, the mentors, the entrepreneurs, the partners, and I see how much we've all grown together. It's easy to forget that success isn't just about what you've done on your own. It's about the relationships you build along the way, the people you surround yourself with. Those are the true catalysts for growth. They're the ones who challenge you when you need it and who celebrate with you when you succeed. And I'm grateful for every single person who has been part of this journey. I also realize that I'm not just building businesses, I'm building a life. And a life well lived isn't just about achievements. It's about the legacy you leave behind. It's about the values you instill in others, the lives you've touched, and the changes you've helped bring about in the world. My journey is not just a reflection of my successes, but a reflection of the impact I've had on others. As I look toward the future, I know that there's still so much more to do. The world is changing faster than ever, and there are still so many issues to address, so many lives to impact. But I'm ready. I'm ready for the next challenge, the next breakthrough, the next opportunity to make a real difference. The truth is, I don't know exactly what the future holds. I don't know what challenges I'll face or what obstacles will come my way, but I know this: I'll face them head on, with resilience, with determination, and with the knowledge that I'm not alone in this journey, because no matter where we are, no matter how successful we become, we are all in this together. And that's the ultimate lesson I've learned. Success isn't just about what you accomplish individually, it's about how you help others accomplish their dreams too. It's about leaving the world better than you found it. It's about lifting others as you rise. The billionaire once told me that we all have a responsibility to change the world. At the time, I didn't understand what that really meant. But now I see it clearly. We are all part of a bigger picture, and what we do today will shape the world of tomorrow. It's up to us to make it better, to make it more inclusive, more sustainable, more compassionate. I'm not done yet. There's still so much more to achieve, to build, and to give. But I know one thing for sure. This journey, this story, it's just beginning. And the best is yet to come.